The paper feels cold against my fingertips.
It was an invitation to a cabin in the woods.
Creepy.
Haunted, who believes that stuff?
Sounds fun to me. Let's do it.
The four friends were always up for an adventure. Even though the flyer sent shivers down their spines, they packed their bags, ignoring the prickling feeling of unease. They were ready for a weekend of fun, laughter, and maybe a few harmless scares, or so they thought. Tom whistled along to the radio, trying to break the tension. He'd insisted on driving, his confidence a mask for the unease that gnawed at him. The woods were getting thicker, the sunlight fading fast. He gripped the steering wheel, knuckles turning white.
It feels like we're driving to the middle of nowhere.
She hugged her arms around herself, trying to shake off the feeling of being watched. Every shadow seemed to hold a pair of eyes, every rustle of leaves a whispered warning. The GPS announced their arrival. GPS, your destination is on your right. But there was nothing there, just more trees and a dirt road that disappeared into the gloom. They looked at each other, confusion mixing with growing fear. As darkness swallowed the last rays of sunlight, they saw it. A narrow, overgrown path leading to a clearing, and in the center, silhouetted against the dying light, stood the cabin. The cabin door creaked open on rusty hinges, as if inviting them in. A musty smell hit them. Dust motes danced in the faint light filtering through grimy windows. Cobwebs draped the furniture like macabre decorations. The silence inside was unnerving, broken only by the sound of their own breathing.
This place is creepy.
She wouldn't let go of Jake's arm. He tried to laugh it off, but even he felt a shiver run down his spine. Tom, ever the skeptic, strode in, his flashlight beam cutting through the gloom.
Come on, it's not that bad. We just need to air it out a bit.
But even he couldn't ignore the feeling that they weren't alone. Sarah wandered around, running her fingers along the dusty surfaces. She stopped at a bookshelf, her fingers tracing the spines of old leather-bound books. They found some candles in the kitchen, and soon flickering light pushed back the oppressive darkness. The journal lay open on the table, its strange symbols seeming to writhe in the dancing flames. No one dared to touch it. They tried to distract themselves with unpacking, building a fire in the old fireplace and sharing stories.
Maybe we should tell ghost stories.
He suggested, trying to lighten the mood. He regretted it instantly.
Don't even joke about that.
She hissed. They ate their dinner quickly, the silence broken only by the crackling fire. As the night deepened, they huddled together in the living room, the flickering firelight casting dancing shadows on the walls. Outside, the wind howled like a banshee, rattling the windows. They told jokes, played cards, trying to ignore the growing unease that sat like a weight on their chests. But the silence of the cabin was broken by more than just the wind. A noise, a soft thump from upstairs. They froze, listening intently. Silence. Then another thump, slower this time, deliberate. Fear, cold and clammy, spread through the room. Tom grabbed a poker from beside the fireplace, his knuckles white. Morning came, reluctantly, painting the windows with pale light. The cabin seemed less menacing in the daylight, but the fear from the night lingered like a bad smell. They decided to explore the cabin, hoping to find a rational explanation for the noises. The attic seemed like a good place to start.
Maybe some squirrels got in.
Lisa offered, her voice still shaky from the previous night. She clung to Jake's arm as they climbed the creaky stairs, each step echoing in the silent house. The attic door was old, warped wood, held shut with a rusty padlock. Tom pulled it open, the hinges groaning in protest. The attic was dark and dusty, filled with cobwebs and long-forgotten furniture. They stepped inside, their footsteps disturbing the thick layer of dust on the floor. That's when they saw them. Footprints. Small, bare footprints. But the attic door had been locked, and the footprints were fresh. They left the attic, sealing it shut again with the rusty padlock. No one wanted to admit what they were all thinking, that they weren't alone in the cabin, that something was wrong. Very wrong. They tried to distract themselves with hikes in the woods, their laughter feeling forced and hollow in the face of their growing fear. Nightfall brought a fresh wave of terror. The shadows seemed deeper, the silence heavier. They sat huddled together, the fire in the hearth offering little comfort. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of wind against the windows sent shivers down their spines.
Did you see that?
Lisa whispered, her eyes wide with fear. She pointed to the hallway, her hand trembling. A fleeting shadow moved just beyond the edge of the firelight. It vanished before they could get a good look.
Come out.
The next day, they packed their bags. Fear, like a virus, had infected them all. They decided to leave, to cut their trip short and seek the comfort of civilization. But as they were about to walk out the door, the power went out. The lights flickered and died, plunging the cabin into darkness.
What was that?
Sarah shrieked, her voice high with panic. The silence of the cabin was shattered by a loud crash from upstairs. The attic? They stared at each other, their faces pale in the sudden darkness. The hair on the back of their necks stood on end. They cautiously made their way back to the attic door, their fear a tangible presence in the air. The padlock that held it shut lay on the floor, broken. The door was slightly ajar, as if something had pushed it open from the inside. A cold draft seeped out, carrying with it the stench of decay and the faintest whisper of something else, something sinister. The growl seemed to vibrate in the air, sending shivers down their spines. Tom, armed with the axe, slowly inched forward, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The air grew colder, the smell of decay stronger. They could feel their hearts pounding in their chests, their breaths shallow and rapid. They reached the center of the attic. The growling stopped. A tense silence descended, broken only by the sound of their own breathing and the frantic thumping of their hearts. Then the flashlight flickered, casting long, dancing shadows on the walls, and that's when they saw it. A figure, tall and skeletal, shrouded in darkness. Its eyes glowed an unnatural red in the darkness, burning into their souls. A low, guttural growl emanated from it, sending chills down their spines. The smell of decay was overpowering now, making them gag. They were paralyzed with fear, unable to move, to breathe, to scream. The figure took a step towards them, its long, bony fingers reaching out. The sight of the creature, its glowing red eyes boring into their souls, broke the spell of fear that held them captive. They stumbled back, their screams echoing in the dusty attic. Tom swung the axe blindly, desperation lending him strength. But the axe passed through the figure as if it were a phantom.
Run!
Lisa screamed, her voice raw with terror. They didn't need to be told twice. They turned and fled, scrambling over boxes and old furniture, their only thought to escape the nightmare of the attic. The figure made no move to follow, but its laughter, cold and hollow, echoed behind them, spurring them on. They raced down the stairs, their lungs burning, their legs screaming for respite. The front door was in sight, a beacon of hope in the nightmare they were living. They scrambled out into the sunlight, gasping for breath, their hearts pounding against their ribs like trapped birds. They huddled together, their fear a tangible presence in the bright sunlight. They had escaped the nightmare of the cabin, but the experience had left an indelible mark on their souls. They knew with chilling certainty that they would never forget the terror of that night. The creature in the attic, the smell of decay, the laughter. As they caught their breath, they took stock of their surroundings. They were at the edge of the woods, the road a welcome sight in the distance. But something was wrong, terribly wrong, terribly.
Where's Jake?
Lisa asked, her voice trembling. Her words hung in the air, heavy with dread. They looked around, their hearts sinking as the realization hit them with full force. Jake was gone. They had left him behind, swallowed by the darkness of the cabin.